people of YouTube, welcome back to another video with my Ford Franklin. Today's aim is to service this car on my driveway with little to no specialised tools to show that anyone can do it. Now unfortunately for my car, I seem to think it can do everything, like loading up 8 doors and your mate and taking them round to his house.
You got to shut me in.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, we made it safe and sound, and no, he didn't travel like in the boot. Anyhow, welcome to another episode of The Manic Mechanic. Okay, as you can see, we are just over the 80,000 mile mark, and by that I mean we're 731 miles overdue. So as a baseline, this is a 1.6 petrol Ford Focus MKII, and this is supposed to be a general guide to tell you the kind of things you need to be looking at and how they're commonly done on any car. The only thing worth noting is that my car doesn't have a changeable fuel filter, so I won't be able to cover that in this video. Okay, step 1, remove your sump plug. You've got to get all the oil out. So these are normally sealed by either an O-ring or a copper crush washer, and they're not supposed to be done up very tight. Now you'll find some of them that are damn difficult to remove, but luckily this one was nice and easy. Okay, if you want to get nice smooth flow like what you're seeing here and not everything spilling everywhere, make sure you open the oil filler cap to let the air in. Okay, the next step is to change the oil filter. Now this really grinds my gears when working on cars. These are supposed to be done up hand tight. Hand tight! But some people feel the need to do these up like their life depends on it, making the next person's job absolutely impossible like you're about to see. So get your oil pan and make sure that's underneath. These things spill a load of oil everywhere, and if you're not expecting it, it'll get a massive puddle over your driveway. I've definitely done that before. If you do want to see a method for removing the oil from the oil filter before you take it off the engine block, have a look at Watch Wes Work's video. I believe he's working on a GM, and it's quite an ingenious idea. I don't need to do that here because it can just drip straight down and into my tray, but if you've got other components underneath and you don't want to get them full of oil, check that out. I'll put a link in the description below. Okay, so I've tried hand loosening it. I've tried loosening it with those pliers. I've even trying here to squeeze it with a rubber belt and decided to just go out and buy the proper tool for the job. These are dirt cheap. They make your life a whole lot easier, and it'd be worth it as soon as you use it just once. There are other oil filter removal tools, but they tend to be filter specific, or at least they don't work with everyone. This one's universal, so it's the one I bought. It works for any car I'm possibly going to work on. This is how you use it. You get the little band, you put it around your oil filter, and then you tighten it up, and that gives you plenty of grip to loosen the previous maniac's work. And there you go, with plenty of grip, should come off nice and easy. Unfortunately this one was on so tight I needed to go for another swing at it. But again, if you've got a normal car with a normal person that's worked on it, these will be on hand tight, so you really shouldn't even need the tool. Now it's true that overuse some of these can seize up, so the tool's just good to have. It's worth it, go buy it, stop being a cheapskate. Let the flow of oil begin. So this is why you need the pan under your car, because this will make a huge mess and you really don't want to be cleaning that up, especially in my case because the driveway is not mine. anytime you're going to change a part, line the old one and the new one up side by side. They should be relatively similar, same diameter, same threads. Some of the oil passages might change, especially if you're going third party, but this one looks perfect. Let's go put it in. And there you go, one little squeeze, and that's more than enough. It's nice, it's on there, it's hand tight. The next person should be able to get that off with ease. Whoa, 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 what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh man, you've tightened it again. Hey ho, that's too tight, but I was a bit of a novice, so there you go. Right, back to the sump plug. I had to put my old sump plug back in because I needed to move the oil pan elsewhere for the oil filter. But yeah, take that out and put a new one in. Do not reuse it. They normally seal with either an O-ring or a copper washer. None of those are reusable. Get a new one, they're dirt cheap. I know it's a pain to have to go get another one. What I like to do is to pour a little bit of fresh oil in through the filler cap. I can see that coming out at the bottom, and I know all the old oil has been flushed out the system. Okay, so this is mention number 335 about over tightening. These things should go in snug. They're only sealing with an O-ring, it's not like a proper bolt. So I'm trying to prove here by using a torque wrench. Normally just by tightening it up and going a quarter turn over should be fine. Snug is the name of the game here. But I've used the torque wrench to show you how tight they should be. I know it looks like I'm going ham on this, but that's only because I've got a very short throw on my wrench. Alright, click, click, job's a good one. Now, time to get some new oil back in. So go get yourself a funnel. You can see some amazing videos of people on YouTube doing it without a funnel. I can't do that, it just goes everywhere. Now, I'm on an inclined driveway, there's no way I can measure my oil, so I've just looked up the capacity and poured in that amount. And I'll have to go somewhere flat and check it later. Put your oil cap back on and you're done. You've changed the oil, and that is the most important part of a service. Okay, moving on to spark plugs. This is where you will differ in a diesel engine. A diesel engine does not have any spark plugs, so just skip this. Okay, a word of warning about spark plug leads. Mine are dead easy. As you can see, they're all different lengths, so it's impossible for me to put them back into the wrong spark plug. I cannot possibly put lead 1 into spark plug 4, so no problem for me. But a lot of cars have very long leads, and you can easily get them confused when putting them back in. Your engine won't run right or won't run at all. So word of warning, label them. Label them. Listen to me here. I've made that mistake. Go and label your spark plug leads. Take a bit of tape, write it straight on with Tipex, whatever you want, but make sure you put spark plug lead 1 back into spark plug 1. So here's the first spark plug. That's looking good, looking nice and clean. It's about what it should look like. I'm not running rich, I'm not running lean, but the 80,000 mile service on my car doesn't require a spark plug change as far as I remember, but it's worth doing. This was my first service on this car, didn't know the service history, don't know how well it's been treated. By the looks of other parts of this job, not very well. So I'm just putting a bunch of new ones in to stay on the safe side. So when you're putting new spark plugs in, you want to make sure they are gapped properly. There is a gap that they come with from the factory. That's the gap between the little tip and the other little tip, whatever. The gap at the top of the spark plug, I think it's relatively obvious. In my case, it's dead easy because the ones they come with is the correct gap for my car. If not, just get a little set of pliers and a set of feeler gauges. Worst case scenario, you can always take your spark plug down to the local hardware store, take a set of feeler gauges off the shelf and do it off the spot without having to buy it. So there's your top tip, just take them down and check them there. Okay, another word about tightening again. Here, the normal spec, it's written on the spark plug box, it's about a quarter to half a turn past hand tight. They do also have an official torque spec, which is what I'm using here. You can see as I put them in, I'm barely squeezing past hand tight. The risk here is that the threads on the spark plug are often much harder than an aluminium head that you have on most cars. So you risk stripping them out if you go too hard, and that's a world of pain. You don't want to be doing that. Okay, you can see me constantly checking the bottom of my spark plug socket, and I'll show you why. There's a little rubber O-ring in the middle of there, and sometimes it gets stuck on the spark plug as opposed to in the bottom of the socket. Let's see, yeah, there you go, you can see that black O-ring at the bottom there. Yeah, once that's all done, get your leads back, again, in the right order, and you're good to go. Right, moving on to the airbox, here it is. Dead easy, take the lid off, there's normally 4 to 5 bolts holding that in, and swap your air filter around. Let's see how that's done. There you go, there's a proper look at the back of my head. Look at those grey hairs, what a disgrace. The man's 23 years old at that point in the video. I'm now slightly older and got many more grey hairs, but hey ho, such is life. Okay, so then you just want to take your old air filter out, and in a normal service, you just put a new one back in and put the lid back on. However, I'm going to go the extra mile here. Look at the inside of that airbox. It's an absolute state. I'm going to dismantle it, take it out, give it a bit of a hose down, nice clean. I think it's in real need of it. It's not necessary for all services. It's if you want to go the extra mile. This is me noticing that removing the air connection from the box side is impossible, so I'm going to remove it from the engine side, and then the exact same thing applies for the oil breather hose. Right, anytime you want to leave your intake open or exposed for a long period of time, cover it. Cover it up. You don't want anything falling in there and going straight into your engine or dent your pistons. It'll ruin everything. Just cover it up. Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Nice clean airbox. That's much better. There was a lot of dirt in there. So once that's done, go reinstall it. Connect everything up how it was. In this case, there's an oil breather hose, an air intake, and an electrical connector for the mass airflow sensor. Right, if you just want to do a normal service, this is where you should join us again. You go put your air filter back in exactly how the old one was. In my case, I found out that it wasn't possible to do with the fuse box there. I just got a bit heavy-handed when taking the old one out. So I just pop the airbox out, becomes much easier to put in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, just whilst you're watching me do up the rest of this, there is one more thing you can do with your car, and that's change the cabin air filter. I haven't done that here because it got changed as I bought it due to a very bad smell. It's not as important, it doesn't affect the performance of the car, but it's worth doing. I can't remember, I think it's 1 out of every 2 services you change the cabin air filter. So whilst you're up in the engine bay, something you should do when you're servicing your car and when you're not servicing your car is check your levels. So off the top of my head, you should check your coolant level, you should check your brake fluid level, and your power steering fluid level if your car has one. If you're well off the minimum mark, then you might want to look into if you have a leak. If you're just under, top it up and you'll be fine. Okay, just to give you an idea here, if you look at the top left-hand corner, now that I've removed my fat head, you can see the coolant expansion tank, and it gives you a pretty good idea of how inclined my driveway is and why I can't check the oil here or other fluid levels. So, once you're tightening this back up, I'm going to do another mention to over-tightening. Yes, I'm going to talk about it again. You're screwing into plastic here. Look at it. Look what I'm going to do here. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, barely anything. That is perfect. That is the level you need, because if not, this happens. You tighten, and you tighten, and you tighten, and you tighten, and you've realised some idiot before you has over-tightened it and snapped the plastic. Right, at this point, go down and put the, the underguard back on. Okay, once you're all done with that, your service is now officially over. So, I'm going to take a bit of time here to put a bit of caveat in there. The big part of servicing your own car is practice, because obviously if you take it to a garage, they charge you far more. Why? Because they're looking over everything else. They check all your fluids, which you should be doing anyways. And that just kind of happens as you're going along. You see these things, you might see something loose, you might see something that's not quite right, and you only get that with practice. And that's what a service is really about. It's not just checking over all your stuff and replacing the stuff that the booklet says, you're looking around whilst you're down there. Oh, is there a connection that's a bit loose? Is a certain part of my car looking a bit rusty? Is there a knocking noise? Anything like that. That's what gets done in a garage. So anyhow, like I said, your service is now over, but we are going to go the extra mile. What you're seeing me do here is add a fuel additive for fuel system cleaner. It just helps clean everything out. It's dead easy. You put a funnel in there, you spill some down the side of your car, you realise you're doing it wrong. You get a proper funnel, one of those extension hoses that comes with your 5 litre fuel tank you buy at a petrol station. Add it in there, run the car for a full tank, and then you're good to go. The reason I originally did this is because I have what's known as a bore camera, I think. You drop it down the spark plug hole and lets you see your pistons, and they did look a little bit gunked up. Unfortunately, this was filmed so long ago that I no longer have that footage to show you the before and after. Even without that camera though, what I normally do is run one of these through my car every 75,000 miles or every 75,000 kilometers. I know it's not even close in distance, but because it doesn't matter and it's not something that's in the service, just pick a random number, don't do it that regularly, it's not necessary, and it'll keep your fuel system just that little bit cleaner. Make sure you buy the right one, it's very different if you use diesel additives and if you use gasoline additives. The other thing to note is, because I've just changed the spark plugs, I don't really want to run this additive through the new spark plugs because it's going to loosen up a lot of the gunk in the system and drive it through the pistons. So I'm going to put the old ones in. You can see me there dropping that little camera in to get the before. Like I said, unfortunately I no longer have that footage. And once you're done with that, you're all good to go. Have a little tidy up, put everything away, and as always, go for a little drive. Now, I'm well aware that my car doesn't have everything you need to do on every service, so I've only shown you what I can, but I've tried to mention some of the differences. This isn't an extensive how-to, but it's more than good enough if you want to get started. I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments. As always, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this, and join us next time for another episode of The Manic Mechanic.